Good evening and welcome to the latest two rounds of this, the 30th season of TGP2. And with only 6 races complete, already it looks set to be yet another thrilling title fight between a variety of drivers. Wet Lemons and Camababo are separated by just 1 point at the top, and you can see they're already first and second in this qualifying session, 1/10 the difference. But it's Wet Lemons who leads the championship, so at the moment he's got to try and get back through on his chaser to make sure he stays ahead after this race. Sampras is out of qualifying already. He's crashed out, I think, at the final corner. Dan, have you seen what's happened?
Yeah, and he was about to go a lot quicker as well. I think he might have been about to go on pole, and he dropped it at the final corner.
Well, that's not what he needed at all in this qualifying session, but we are here in China for the first of 2 races. Wet Lemons, of course, and Camababo at the front fighting for the title. Last week, Camababo claimed his 5th career victory, while the man up front, Lemons, found himself beaten by the streets of Monte Carlo. Also, in this fight, we have the likes of Daniel P, ACDC Jacko, Theo Hitman, and, as ever, Chris Johnson. The top 6 are all closing in on one another, and we are here tonight for 2 more races. It's the first time we've been here at Shanghai Circuit in, well, almost a year. Spring last year. A lot of newcomers in this field will not have raced here before in TGP. And the only previous winners on the grid, well, at the moment, it's just Nooney, down in 16th at the moment, reigning champion. But Slayer Sports is also going to join this session a little bit later on, and he will be joining the fight soon. But here we go with Blair Grills coming around the final corner now in the Aston Martin P8 at the moment, crosses the line and goes 4th onto the second row. Good qualifying time from him, Dan.
Yeah, good lap from him as we can continue to see his improved pace this season that we're seeing from Blair Grills. But as you say, at the minute, it's the top 2 in the championship. 1 and 2 is Camababo having some trouble getting into the pit lane there, but he eventually manages it. He does not do a Hamilton 2007, just about gets in, but as I said, they're separated by 1 point in the championship, and we've got loads of the guys, as you say, like Jacko and Theo Hickman, all on the tail, Chris Johnson as well. It's still all to play for.
Indeed it is then. So Camababo leads with just under 4 minutes to go in this session. All the drivers now back in the pits apart from Blair Grills, Kaya, Mr. John we're on board of now, coming round this first very tight, twisty first couple of corners. I always struggle around this part of the track. Always seem to lose chunks of time to the quicker guys that can really nail it. And Mr. John, you can see just about going over the curve there, losing a little bit of time. And Mr. John, that's not going to help his lap as he looks to try and get himself inside the top 10 here. And look at the gap between 8th and 9th. You suspect Mr. John, if he can nail his lap, should go 9th at least, because 10th, 11th and 12th seem to have set slow lap times. Maybe they made mistakes on their current times, and there's already 5 drivers in this qualifying session who haven't set a lap at all.
Yeah, and we've got Angel vs. Death, who was also out of the session. He crashed out early on. Chris Johnson, I think he had a quali ban, didn't he? So he's going to be starting at the back for this race. Just continuing to watch Mr. John. In fact, he's going very slow. I think he might have backed off at the minute from this lap. But Mike Noon, one of the drivers who still hasn't got a lap in. Obviously, we usually say win it or bin it for Mike Noon, and of course he's won the most races in TGP2 history, but on the races he has done so far this season, he's tended to bin it more often than not. We'll see if he can change his tune this time around.
Keep a look on that. The reigning champion Theo Hickman, currently 7th at the moment. Many thought he was going to make it 2 titles on the bound. Some called for him to be promoted to TGP1 early, but he's showing this season that maybe he wasn't ready for the promotion. He's currently 7th in this session. He's quite a bit back from the top 2 already in the championship this season. Let's see if Theo can get himself much nearer the front, if he's to really put himself down as contention for this race win, let alone the championship altogether. He's 7th at the moment, only on the 4th row of the grid alongside F1 Baz at 86. Himself will also be wanting to get slightly clear of those positions, as Theo, almost for a moment there, was blocked by Wet Lemons, the current championship leader, leaving the pit lane. But here we go then. Theo Hickman with 2 minutes to go. This should be his final time lap. I think time is pretty bad around here, isn't it, Dan? So I don't suspect many cars will get more than 1 lap in.
From what I remember, yes, tyre wear does not seem to be too good, although I have to say, I'm not really sure what it's going to be like on this game, because it's going to be the first time this season we're going to have a race around this track on this game, but we'll see how it plays out. Just watching Hickman's lap, and so far it seems pretty decent. I think he was up marginally in the first sector, but really not enough, I don't think, to get anywhere near Camababo or Wet Lemons at the minute. We'll see what happens towards the end of the lap, as he's about to come and hit the second sector time now before this really horrible tight chicane. And again, he's only just slightly up, so he's not improving massively as you come around this never-ending turn 13. And I think if you If you hit any of the curbs around there, if you hit that inside curb, you will just spin. And then you have this very, very long stretch to the straight. And sadly for Theo Hickman, there's no toe in sight for him or anything like that. He's going to have to do it all by himself as then he gets ready to slam on, find the perfect braking point. And into turn 14, I think he just about missed the curb there, but it's not a huge disaster. We'll see how much he improves then, if he can have a good run through the final corner, which is very easy to corner cut or spin. But Hickman doesn't do that, and he only improves though to 6th position.
That's not a great lap, is it, for Theo Hickman? ACDC Jacko will get a tow himself from Blair Grills. I was going to say, Wet Lemons isn't going to get a tow himself either. Of course, Parser out of this session. Cababo, will he get a decent tow from his teammate? Mackie quite in 9th at the moment as Wilnot goes inside the top 4 once again. P4 at the moment, he's back ahead of Blair Grills. Jacko round the final corner now. Can he get himself higher than P6 at the moment? It's a slow couple of corners at the end, and he does in fact improve to P4, but I think he could have gone quicker had he not made the mistake in the last couple of corners.
Yeah, and so far that lap from Parsev, which we set earlier on, has held up in terms of staying in 3rd place. He hasn't actually lost any positions, and we'll see. It may well stay that way towards the end. I'd say Hickman's had a massive spin, but I think he's backed off anyway, as we see if anybody is going to improve towards the end here. It's just the top 2 really that look like they could be improving the lap times. Wet Lemons certainly is improving. He was a 10th and a half up first sector. Now he's 3/10 up in the second. Can he take pole from Kamababo?
This is brilliant, isn't it? The top 2 in the championship going toe to toe, giving us an almighty fight, and it's only qualifying. We're going to be in for a great couple of hours, so do stick with us throughout these 2 races here at China and Baku. But we're here in East Asia for now. Can Wet Lemons get himself back on the front row? There's been an incident further back. I think maybe Jacko getting out of the way of his teammate Bazza, who himself is trying to get inside the front 3 rows at least. Round the final couple corners now for Wet Lemons. Can he get that Ferrari back on provisional pole here in China? Cababo is out there too, also improving, but he's not going to get a tow on his lap, so it could be advantage Lemons here as he comes around the final corner across the line. Can he take pole? He does by a 10th, and now it's down to Cababo to try and respond.
See what he can do then. He did have to sort of dodge Blair Gills, who had spun just ahead of him. It shouldn't have been a huge distraction, but it might have put him off slightly as he makes the hard braking point now through turn 14, and we'll see what he can do across the line. Jacko's just ahead of him. We'll see if Jacko improves as well. He goes up into 2nd place,
oh, wow,
just behind Wet Lemons. Wow, and is Kamababa going to take pole? Yes, he does.
Wow, look at the lap times. Jacko, he's been the man in qualifying this season, hasn't he? There's no improvement for Blair Grills. He's going to stay 6th at best. Theo Hickman back in the pits. Jacko, oh, sorry, Bazza looks like he's ran out of fuel, just coasting it back, so there'll be no more improvement in this session. Bazza is the last man out on track, and he's invalidated anyway, so no improvement for him. He starts PA. Mackie will be very happy to be 9th. Look at the gap between 8th and 9th, almost a second. A lot of drivers not getting respectable laps in the second half of the field. So wow, what a qualifying session it was. Cababo on pole, just 600ths of a second the difference between the front 3 here in qualifying. It's going to be a very fascinating race for sure, and we're expecting dry clouds too, not a rain drop in sight.
That was a hell of a second lap from Jacko, but you mentioned, of course, tyre wear around the air, and I think he has done an extra lap now on those set of soft tyres, which of course he'll have to start the race on compared to the top 2, but he just narrowly missed out on a front row start as well.
Kamababa then hadn't had a pole ever in TGB2 until last week when he claimed it at Canada. He's now got 2 here as well at China, so Kamababa really starting to show that he could well be a real threat for this championship. He's closed the gap dramatically in the championship to just 1 point, despite being much further back after the opening 2 weeks, and now it looks like he has the slim advantage. But Jacko, who seems to show a little bit extra in qualifying, once again getting himself in the final. If he can get possibly ahead of Wet Lemons off the start, could make things very interesting, Dan.
It could indeed, yes, and of course it's sort of crucial that you get a good result at this stage if you're one of those drivers like Hickman or Jacko or Wheelnut, who's there in the championship hunt but still quite a few points back. You know, you could do with Wet Lemons and Kamababo both having a difficult race, and you making the most of it. And certainly if Jacko can get a good start to get himself in there immediately, he will be able to do that as we wait to see what it's like. And well, yeah, it is dry, as you said. It does look a bit cloudy, but I don't think we're going to get any rain for this race.
It is worth keeping an eye out on the all-time TGP2 race starts. If Joe isn't here, then that means John will move to 487, just 13 away from that landmark 500, as him and Joe try to battle out to be the first driver to hit 500 races. But we're about to go racing here at Shanghai. Dan the man, who's going to win this one? Camababo, Wet Lemons, will it be Jacko?
I think Jacko might be able to spring a surprise here. I mean, to do that on the second lap as well on those tyres, that was quick.
Here we go then. Let's find out what happens as the 5 laps now start to come on screen. The top 2 in the championship are on the front row. 5 lights on. And they quickly go off. We're racing here in TGB2. It's once again a poor start for Jacko. He's going to be bogged down, I think, by Parser and Daniel into turn 1. But Camababo, what a start to keep the lead of this race. And Parser already trying to get through on his teammate for second place. That's not what Lemons needs. He's down to third already. What a start for Parser, up 2 places. And he makes sure he stays ahead of his teammate Jacko for now in 4th with Wheelnut 5th. What a start it was from Parser. He's already into P2 in this race.
Fantastic stuff. There was a bit of a collision as well between Wheelnut and Blair Grills. It's sent Blair Grills right down the order, but Chris Johnson, his teammate, has actually made up 6 positions. So, bit of a decent start for one Aston Martin, terrible one for the other. Is this Jacko going to have a go at Wet Lemons now? No, he's not. He's a bit far back for that. It's Wheelnut in 5th place, who's on Jacko, in fact. But yeah, Wet Lemons will not be happy to have just lost out to Parser straight away. But you credit to Parser. What a brilliant start. And he could challenge Camababo.
This is brilliant, isn't it? And I think Lemons will want Parser to start the challenge. Camababo, of course, if he finishes 3rd to 2nd, as opposed to 2nd to 1st, there'll be a much less of a point swing for him in the title race. Mick Schumacher's up to 7th in the background. Theo Hickman is going backwards. Keep an eye on Chris Johnson, started at the very back of the grid, but already up 7 places into 10th. It's a yellow
Theo
flag
Hickman's
further
gone.
back. It's Theo Hickman, the reigning champion, is at the back of the field, Dan.
Yeah, I think he just lost it at turn 12. I don't know if he had a collision or if he just spun by himself. But is Wet Lemons going to come back at Parser here into turn 14? Parser very late on the brakes, and he manages to stay ahead for the time being.
Yeah, indeed he does. I wonder if Lemons will be screaming at Parser to get out of the way. He can see Camababo starting to pull slightly further clear, but crucially for Lemons, Parser is still within a second of the car in front. But Lemons looks like he's much closer to Parser than Parser is to Camababo. Is further back. Mackie, the first of the runners to pit. I think that must be damage, because I know tyre wear's bad here, Dan, but surely you can do more than 1 lap.
Yeah, that must be damage, as he's come straight in, and so has Mike Noonan as well, who presumably that will also be damaged, but at least he hasn't crashed yet as they complete the first lap. And as I say, the top 3 were fairly close together. Wet Lemons, can he get near Parser to have a go once again on the second lap? He's a bit deep there into turn 6. That would have lost him a tiny bit of time, but certainly in the constructors this is good for Ferrari, of course, to be running 2nd and 3rd, but it's the one mainly fighting for the championship who is behind the guy in 2nd place, his teammates.
Yeah, indeed it is. Also very close in the constructors as it is in the drivers. I think 3 points the difference that Ferrari currently have over Alpine. Alpine may be leading, but the Ferraris are 2nd and 3rd. With the 2nd Alpine of Mackie down in P16, but he has made a stop, so of course will gain places later in the race. Chris Johnson up to 8th already, and I think about to make a move on Mick Schumacher very shortly for P7. What a start it's been from Chris.
Yeah, he's had a flyer and is engaging his ERS very early on to try and have a good run through turn 13 and hopefully get the move done on Mick Schumacher. We'll see if he can do it, although Mick Schumacher now deploys his ERS, which actually pretty much stabilises the gap, and Chris Johnson can't really close in any further. And unless he breaks very late, which he is doing, nearly nudges the back of him, Mick Schumacher there, but he can't make the move. But in the sights of Mike Noonan, who both pitted on lap 1, have both fitted the hard tyres, which is probably the right decision for this track.
We've got yellow flags further back. Looks like maybe Mike Noonan has had a spin. I don't expect that to be the first or the last today. Mike Noonan, of course, likes a spin, it has to be said, at the moment in current times. But as Chris Johnson continues to try and get through on Mick Schumacher further back, we saw Theo get through on Michael Kenny, but Michael Kenny's gone back straight through again, so he's retaken 13th from Theo. Theo at the very rear of the points now, as once again Chris Johnson continues to try and harass that AlphaTauri of Mick Schumacher to try and get through and start to chase down the big boys.
We've got Wheelnut, who's the first driver to pick up a penalty then of 3 seconds, but Baz are 1.3 seconds behind him at the minute, so he's managed to pull away really from 6th place, but of course that penalty will be applied at the end, as Blair Grills is still trying to make his way through the field after the spin at the start. He's now up into 10th place, but he will have been hoping for a lot more early on. As Mike Noonan spun again, I think he has.
Drink! Mike Noonan's had another spin in this session. Am I surprised? Not really. Mike Noonan, Willie Diamonds at the pits for new tyres. No, he wants to carry on that very worn rubber, as Mick Schumacher almost loses the back end. In fact, he did lose the back end. He's lost the car, managed to catch it, That's good enough for Chris Johnson to go through and take P7 from the AlphaTauri, but he's still there, the AlphaTauri. He's still hanging around the outside. He's got to be careful because Mr. John is right behind him. They're side by side here. The top two ahead of this. Look at the view from Mr. John. He's also working his way up through the field, having not set a lap in qualifying. You can see Chris Johnson up the inside of Marco. And can Mr. John take both of them? Not quite close enough
by side,
to get
the two
either of them.
Ferraris, Wet Lemons into the final corner. Parser just manages to hold on to the position. Wet Lemons had the run with DRS, and he's going to have DRS once again here, and surely this time he will breeze through, and Wet Lemons makes it up into second place, but he so nearly collided at the final corner as Mike Moon is out.
Minute out of the race. Is that going to be a safety car? I hope for the Ferrari's sake it won't be, because of course both of them would have to queue up in the pits. In fact, one would probably have to stay out. In fact, no, it probably is worth them both queuing. But what a battle it is between the two Ferraris. They're still fighting for second and third. Parser wants to come straight back at him. He doesn't care if his teammates fight for the Drivers' Championship. He himself wants these race wins, and all the while this is allowing Calbabo to extend his lead at the front. Calbabo looking for only his second victory of the season, now 2 seconds clear of Lemons, who's on the threat from Parser, and Jacko also in this fight too in P4.
Yeah, Jacko did just tap the back of Parser there. Don't know if he's got damage from that, but he is still very close behind him, so I assume not. Looks like Mick Schumacher's had a spin coming out of the pit lane, and he's just made the pit stop along with Hickman and Wheelnut as well, who of course still has that penalty.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher had a spin at turn 1, not what he needed. He's actually fighting Theo Hickman, the reigning champion at the moment. I don't think Theo Hickman's having a great day at all. And oh, Marco's missed the corner. What is that? He forgot which button was the L2, I think, Dan. He's gone straight on and lost 2 places.
Well, there we go then at the front. Here comes Parser and Wet Lemons. Parser's going to have the DRS, but actually he's not closing in at all this time round. And Jacko, is he getting there close to Parser? No, so pretty much as you were for the top 4 at the moment. Parser very close to Wet Lemons though.
Yeah, he's getting closer, isn't he? You can see Parser all over the back of Lemons. I was going to say, surely, if Lemons doesn't pit, Parser will dive straight in, because now's the time to be making a stop, especially if there are 2 of you in the same team. And that's Chris Johnson up into P5 as Bazza also makes a stop in this race. Make that P4 for Chris Johnson. But now Jacko will try and stick with Wet Lemons. Maybe try and get the toe from him, because of course Lemons now with no car in front of him is under attack from Jacko behind. So it's a nice 5.5 second gap to Chris Johnson behind him.
Yeah, but these guys, well, Lemons and Jacko surely can't really afford to have too much of a battle on this lap. Otherwise, Parser will just get out in ahead of them, surely, who now has 5.6 seconds of clean, fresh air ahead of him.
It's going to be very fascinating to see how this race develops. You can see that currently fastest lap is with Parser. If he can set some fastest laps while he's out there in clean air, because he has come out ahead of Wheelnut, as you say, then that could very well allow him to come out in the lead of this race. Calbaba, will he react and pit this time round? Will Wet Lemons come straight in? Because sure, he's going to be jumped by Parser, especially if he gets involved with a fight in Jacko down this back straight.
Yeah, it does seem pretty inevitable, doesn't it? I mean, but Parser is closing rapidly on Stereogram. I wonder if it might get to a stage where he closes in so much that actually he ends up getting a bit of traffic, because Parser is absolutely flying on these fresh tyres. As Jacko is going for Wet Lemons here down the back straight, and is he going to go for second place?
It looks like he is. Down the inside, he takes Wet Lemons as P2. What a move from Jacko. He still believes he's in this title race, and he gets through on Lemons. But can Lemons come straight back? I think both of them are going to dive into the pits. They need to be careful on the pit entry here. In fact, no, Jacko stays out.
Wow.
What are they doing? They're both staying out. Maybe they both thought the other would, so they thought, well, I better stay out and do the opposite. But both of them staying out. They're now fighting for what is the net lead, really. Lemons up the inside into turn 1. Is he going to take the place straight back from Jacko? These two fighters just losing each other time. I don't see the benefit in staying out. Maybe they think at the end they can gain it back on fresher tyres. They're still side by side, these two. Great racing between Jacko and Wet Lemons. Wet Lemons, for now, loses the lead once again, but he's still there. These two, just 2/10 the difference. The racing is absolutely fantastic here in China. At the front, we've got Kababa now out of the pits and ahead of Parser, still stuck behind Stereogram and Kaya. Kababa, crucially, ahead of those two both. So that's just what he needed to keep charge of this race. But there's a yellow flag. I was going to say, any VSC or safety car now would be great news for Jacko and Lemons, because they could dive in and take huge chunks of time out of those who have already pitted.
Yeah, it would totally change the complexion of the race if that was to happen. But right now, I think it's mainly playing into Parser's hands in terms of getting second place. Kamo Babo looking fairly good to maintain the lead now, surely. But Parser is flying, and now he's right behind Stereogram, and really he needs to get this move done immediately. Does not want to be held up too much, because then that might make it come back slightly in Jacko and Wet Lemon's hands for second place. But he's really stuck behind Stereogram and Kaya right now. This is not the ideal place to catch up to them. Can he make the move now on Stereogram going into this tight chicane and then maybe get Kaya down DRS? but he's got past the first one.
How crucial was it, Kambaba coming out ahead of Kaya and Stereogram, and now here we go, Parser trying to get through on the second. He's got the first. He has Kaya to get. Kaya trying to move to the right. He'll now move back to the left.
Both coming in.
Both coming in. Kaya weaving there on the back straight. That's not what Parser needs at all. Parser up the inside, and Kaya this time will have to lose the position. Parser through into P6, but Jacko and Let Lemons have both pitted from this race. Where will Kambaba come out in reflection to the pair of them? He's now at the final corner. He himself is stuck behind Angel versus Death, who is yet to pit and will take the lead of the Grand Prix. What a throwback this is. Angel versus Death leads in TGB2. Jacko leaving the pit lane, as is Lemons still. Lemons has jumped Jacko
and
into
here
the pits.
Comes Parser, and Parser's going to get them both fairly comfortably, and Wet Lemons back ahead of Jacko as well. And
Wheelnut's gone wide at turn 1, which allowed Lemons to go back through into P5. Look how badly it's worked out for these two who stayed out. A stand up here, Wheelnut taps the back of Wet Lemons and spins himself round. Dan, thoughts, comments, concerns?
Well, it makes that obviously a lot easier, doesn't it, for Jacko, but Wheelnut, because he pitted very early, so had a really huge undercut, as his Wet Lemons going to dive down the inside now. Kaya needs to get this done immediately and does make the overtake, and we'll see now if on those fresh tyres he can begin to gain on Parser, who's 1.6 seconds clear.
Well then, Angel versus Death, 4/10 adrift of Kambaba, but he's yet to stop in this race, so do not worry about him. The battle's really for position is Jacko on Wet Lemons. He'll be gutted to have lost the place. We've got a spinner further back. Looks like it might be Kaya. In fact, it is Kaya, so that's him now out of contention. But Michael, Kenny, Angel versus Death, P2, both McLarens yet to pit in this race. And Chris Johnson continues his charge of the field, up 9 places in P8, and he should gain 2 more when those ahead pit.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's going to have DRS then this time round? I think Baza is looking pretty close right now. So Wheelnut, who's having to recover after that half spin he just had, does have DRS though on Jacko, so it might be able to help him slightly to prevent a Baza overtake, but he has still got those 2 penalties, Wheelnut, so he's not in a great position right now. He gets very close to Jacko, and then Baza gets very close to him as well. He's in an unfair sandwich at the moment.
Yeah, Baza looking to clear the Mercedes, who just seems to be struggling here. It's once again a bit twisty at the final corner, and this might allow Baza to finally get through into the top 5 once again. The Alfa Romeo is working well here today so far. Got to be careful into turn 1. The corner just sort of dives into the right and just keeps going, and Baza might now be able to go up the inside and take the position straight from Wheelnut, who runs a little wider. Will have the inside for the next corner, and for now holds the position, but Baza with the extra grip, the extra confidence, is going to take the position surely. In fact, no, he's lost more chunks of time. Maybe he made a mistake, because Wheelnut's actually extended by 4/10 there.
Well, much like what we've seen in Spain in the wet, this is a good defensive driving from Wheelnut, and he's making it pretty difficult for Baza. Baza doesn't need to, I don't think he needs to panic massively though, of course, because of the penalties that Wheelnut has, but still, he's making it very, very difficult for him.
I think reigning champion Theo is trying to make sure he stays in TGB2 next season. He's really struggling so far this season, down in 11th, outside the top 10, trying to get through on Blair Grills, who himself will be disappointed with this result. He wanted to try and push for the championship this season. Him and Chris Johnson in the Aston Martin were both sort of going into it expecting much better, but in the end, they're now 7th and 10th in this race. Angel versus Death has made that pit stop. Kaya still out there on track, but should be pitting shortly. Baza's getting closer and closer to Wheelnut ahead of him, as Theo and Blair Grills trying to get through on Kaya.
So let's see if Baza can do it now then. They're both running very, very low on ERS, it has to be said. The pair of them, Baza and Wheelnut here. And Wheelnut's trying to defend, but will Baza be super late on the brakes? Oh, he doesn't know which lane to take into the corner there. And in the end, had to back out of any overtaking attempt as Blair Grills gets past Kaya, and so does Hickman. And is Hickman going to try and get past Blair Grills as well? It's very close back. Blair Grills runs a bit deep, and it allows Hickman to go in. Oh, wow. Blair Grills lit the rear tyres up on the exit and had to rest on Theo's car.
And now Theo's lost the back end, and he's gone round, and he's in the wall. And is he out of this race? No, he's managed to keep all 4 wheels on that Williams, but it's a virtual safety car, and that's going to neutralise the field temporarily. Everyone's made their pit stops, so it doesn't mean much, but Theo Hickman will probably have damage. Yes, he does. That fromming is completely gone. Theo Hickman, reigning champion, really struggling this season.
What a disaster. I mean, this is the worst possible place as well to lose your front wing and have to do the entire lap, of course, with no front wing, and you'll be hoping that VSC stays out for as long as possible. So Indecisive did pit. He was on the hard tyres, wasn't he, because he pitted on lap 1, and now he's going to put the mediums on, so he might actually have an interesting run to the end of this race with 5 laps to go, Indecisive. But meanwhile in the pack, as you say, at the front they've all made the pit stop, so I think the closest thing to watch at the restarts is to see if Baza will immediately try and have a run on Wheelnut.
Mr. John has a 5-second time penalty, I'm presuming, for maybe speeding in the pit lane, unless there was some sort of incident under the virtual safety car, but I presume it's for speeding in the pit lane. That's my guess. Blair Grills with the 3-second, and as you mentioned, Daniel P. Wheelnut carrying 6, so he would drop behind both of Bazza and Chris Johnson, maybe even Mr. John, if Mr. John's penalty turns out to be an incorrect one.
It's speed in the pit lane.
Okay, so Mr. John will not get that removed. He will likely not gain any positions because of that time penalty, but the VSC should be ending very shortly, and when it does, we'll have Bazza right on the back of Wheelnut as he continues to try and get through on the track at least, and we go racing once again. There's an AlphaTauri just leaving the pit lane. Marco, at the time of the VSC ended, so he got full advantage of that. Not that it matters, he's 16th and 48 seconds off the car in front. But Bazza will now start to chase down Daniel P. Wheelnut once again. But as you mentioned, Dan, already, this guy has shown he knows how to defend. He kept Wet Lemons back for laps and laps in Spain when the rain was chucking it down. As soon as Wet Lemons got through, he was pulling 2 seconds a lap. But Wheelnut kept him back for about 6 or 7 laps and gave a good fight for those behind while he did so.
He did indeed, yes. He was a bit wide in the turn 1 there to start that lap, though, but he managed to recover well from that, and Bazza still can't get anywhere near. Meanwhile, Hickman has made it back to the pit lane, and I think the VSC ended while he was going down the back straight, so he nearly done the full lap without having to really push hard because of the VSC. But Bazza, got a bit wide there through, I think that's turn 7, isn't it? You do not want to get out on the marbles there, but he's got away with it. And again, he's just behind Wheelnut, and as long as he doesn't drop drastically behind, he will still get 5th place once the penalties are applied.
I was going to say, maybe Bazza's tyres are starting to go, but his tyres are actually 1 lap fresher than Wheelnut, who's ahead of him, so maybe both of them just struggling, maybe Bazza more so with that rubber at the moment. But Bazza still within a second, so will still get DRS, but Wet Lemons is now back in the podium places, and he's just 7/10 adrift of his teammate. Will Parser let him through in the closing stages, should he be close enough, without Jacko having any chance to get the point off Parser as well? Dan, do you think we'll see team orders here, or will Parser just settle for second? He got very racy at the opening start of this race.
Well, Evans said he spun there, didn't he? But, yeah, as you say, judging
still
by
got the fastest lap.
Judging by the early stages of the race, I think Parser may well fight for position, to be honest, but just looking at everybody's ERS at the minute, and Jacko has a lot of it left. He has nearly 90% left. So if Wet Lemons and Parser do start battling, Jacko may well catch up pretty quickly with all that deployment, and he'll get a bit of DRS as well. I would not rule Jacko out of a 2nd place in this race just yet.
I mean, does Parser think he's in the championship fight? Pre-season, he was arguably one of the favourites to keep an eye on, but as Mark Kenny ends his race, that's not going to be a safety car, is it? It is.
It is a safety car.
The field's going to be bunched up. That's bad news for Wheelnut, Mr. John and Blair Grills. Good news maybe for Thea, who can close up on everyone again.
Yeah, I was looking at the other McLaren because Kaya pitted. I thought that was Angel versus Death, but it wasn't. Angel versus Death has actually lost it at the final corner, and has totally spun into the wall. And we do have a safety car with 3 laps to go.
Wow, so we're going to see a shootout then. Maybe on the last lap here, if the steward, who is not Michael Massey, of course Michael Massey's not here today, he's currently under investigation for other incidents in other championships, so he unfortunately is not the race steward here today. But I was going to say, Parser is 72 points adrift of Wet Lemons. Does he really think 72 points back from his teammate, he has a better chance of winning the championship? If those two swap positions, there's no change in the constructors. Fry still get the same points of 33. So is Parser not just better off giving the extra 3 points of Wet Lemons, which could come in crucial towards the end of the season? Let's see what happens. We've got Mick Schumacher boxing, in fact, so that's going to put him a lap down and therefore ruins any chance he had of getting a point in the final couple of laps.
So obviously the major loser in this safety car, you have to say, is Wheelnut, because he won't just lose the position to Bazza now. He's going to, I was going to say he's going to lose to Chris Johnson, but Chris Johnson's actually pitting. So Chris Johnson is deciding to pit, and he may not lose too many positions, actually. I think, and Mr. John's also coming in, so he's actually going to stay ahead of Mr. John. And the only position he's going to lose
is his teammate.
His teammate.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll let him straight through, Dan. Chris Johnson will for now drop behind Blair Grills, but with Blair Grills knowing his teammate Chris Johnson, who started at the very back of the field, has a clean set of tyres and maybe a real chance to snatch something quite dramatic here in the closing lap or laps at Shanghai. I'm sure he might jump out of the way.
And Mr. John is obviously, he's pitted and he's been able to save his 5-second penalty, but
smart
he
move,
has
John.
gone down to 11th place. He has lost a position to Stereogram Red Bull Kim.
Red Bull Kim The man, the myth, the legend. This, his 223rd career start in TGB2, is inside the top 10, Dan. Now, Rebel Kim, he's been here a while. Absolute legend of the league, Dan the man. What are your thoughts, comments, concerns on Rebel Kim?
Well, it'd be fantastic to see him get a good result, wouldn't it? As you say, he is an absolute legend, and of course, he might have been quite annoyed that the driver he tends to do battle with, Kaya had a very good result in Imola, didn't he? Which really helped him in the championship. So maybe Rebel Kim can do the same. But now we are just after we only had the lap of safety car.
Oh, damn!
And it is coming in.
And this is controversial because Mick Schumacher has not been allowed to unlap himself. Mick Schumacher has not been allowed to unlap himself, and the safety car's coming in, Dan. I'm not sure what the rules and regulations are around this, but this is, well, I don't know what to say, Dan.
Well, I mean, the Aston Martin fans will be fuming because it's the two Aston Martins who are directly behind. And look at the gap that's being created there. And Chris Johnson has fresh soft tyres.
Bring back Michael Massey.
Oh, it's going to be outrage.
Well then, we're about to go racing here at Shanghai. Cababo, he's dominated the race and now all of a sudden has two attacking Ferraris all over the back of him. Chris Johnson, has he made a masterclass in pitting? In fact, Jacko may well have pitted himself and come out 5th or 6th on fresh set of softs, which he did, of course, last week. We're about to go racing once again. Cababo leads them into turn 1 with Parser all over the back of the Alpine man, with Wet Lemons also in that fight, and Wilnor challenging Jacko into turn 1.
Yeah, Wilnor going for it, even despite the penalty. Is he going to try and go for a move around the outside? What a move it would be! And he tried it, but Jacko ends up getting back ahead. And the two Ferraris are very close together. Wet Lemons, is he going to try and have a go at Parser now? Can he set one up for turn 6 perhaps as Bazza and Wilnor are side by side once more?
I thought for a moment we were going to see a change of the lead into turn 1 because Cababa got a terrible exit, terrible line into turn 1, which allowed Parser to get right on the back of him. But I think maybe Parser was caught out himself and ended up losing a bit more time, trying to sort of correct his line to make up for it. But you can see Parser has now dropped a bit further back. Wet Lemons is just 3/10 adrift of his teammate. Will he get out of the way and allow his teammate to catch the field? Chris Johnson already into P7 ahead of Blair Grills as suspected. He'll be up to 6th once Wilnor gets his penalty. But there's still going to be another lap after this one. Can Parser snatch the win from Cababo? He's so close, 3/10 of the gap, and it's coming down and down.
So, of course, the crucial thing, of course, is they will not be DRS, so it's going to all come down to just pure slipstream and ERS usage, I suppose, and we'll see who's got the most of it, who hasn't used too much of it so far in this lap to deploy right now. Bazza getting a bit slidey there at the turn 12, and Chris Johnson is going to be right alongside into turn 13, and Chris Johnson is ahead on those fresh soft tyres.
And Bazza's going to come straight back at him again. Through goes Bazza, side by side, these two, they're fighting for 6th and 7th. Maybe Bazza's better off letting Chris go because Chris has much fresher tyres, but Bazza goes, no, fuck you, Chris. I'm keeping the position. Chris Johnson breaks very late into turn 1. Almost hits the back of Wilnor. I apologise for my language. I don't know what happened there. Bazza is back in P7. Chris Johnson's back through, but there's one lap to go. And still, Parser 4/10 adrift of Cababo.
Yeah, final lap then, and so far Cababo has managed to hold off Parser. And Wet Lemons, can he have a go at Parser for 2nd place? There might be a few arguments going on at Ferrari if Parser does not give the position to Wet Lemons, which I don't think he's going to do. As Wheeler and Chris Johnson are now side by side. Chris Johnson trying to get through. Of course, he's got the penalty, but if Chris Johnson can get ahead of Wheeler now, he might be able to have a run on Jacko at the end of the lap. But Wheeler is still so good with defensive driving.
He's brilliant.
He is not making it easy.
He's brilliant, isn't he, Wilnor? He knows how to make that car as wide as it can possibly be. Chris Johnson getting frustrated, still stuck behind the Mercedes, and this is allowing maybe breathing space for Jacko, Lemons and Parser, who can just concentrate on the battle for the win instead. So as Chris Johnson tries to still get through on Wilnor, the gap's at 3/10 at the moment. We've got Wet Lemons just half a second behind Parser. Will we see team orders here in the closing lap? Parser is 72 points behind his teammate in the championship. Yes, there's still a long way to go. Still 8 more weeks in this championship, so Parser will feel he can get straight back into it. But it is a tough ask, and at the moment, Cababo is gaining 10 points on his championship rival and will take the lead of the championship as things stand. Oh, here we go, Dan.
Oh, it's happening. It is happening. I was going to say Ferrari's have form for letting another driver through at the very end. And it's not at the finish line, but it's down the back straight. Parser clearly moved over there, didn't he, for Wet Lemons, I think. Unless Parser's going to come back at him.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was doing it just to get the toe. And here we go. Chris Johnson still trying to get through on Wilnor. Tries to break a bit early to get a better line in the next corner. But this is going to be the race win for Cababo. Chris Johnson is not going to quite get that position number 5 from Dan. Cababo wins his second race of the season. Lemons is second. Crucially, the gap in the championship is now 6 points in Camo's favour. Parser takes third. Jacko and Chris get fourth and fifth. Bazza was behind Chris in the end. John up to P7. What a result for him. I thought it was going to be a bad result when he got that 5-second time penalty, but he made the most of it. Up to P7 with fresh tyres. Will Nor 8th, Blair Grills 9th, and Red Bull Kim did get that top 10, just about missing out from Blair Grills, who in fact was only another further 10th of a second clear of stereogram. 2 tenths, covering 8th down to 10th.
Fantastic race then with that late safety car throw and a bit of a double 6 into the play as well, and it gave us a very fun end. And driver of the day, Chris Johnson, of course, he did come from the back after the quali ban, but Red Bull Kim, Mr. John also having a great race there, and indeed Red Bull Kim as well. But it's the top 2 in the championship who are the top 2 across the line ultimately. Camo Baba with the win though, and that will now put Camo Baba in the lead of the championship.
Well, when Wet Lemons won 3 of the first 4 races, I thought, oh god, this is going to be a long season. But that's now 3 races in a row with Wet Lemons yet to make the top step of the podium. In fact, that's his first time inside the top 2 since he was last won in Spain, and that's because he got let through by his teammate. Chris Johnson did indeed get the fastest lap, despite being held up by all sorts of cars at the very end, just about snatching it from Parser. But there's your results from this race. Calbabo taking the lead of the championship with his second win of the season. Wet Lemons and Parser second and third, with Jacko, 4th place Jacko, once again in his usual position. What a race that was, Dan the man. Calbabo and Wet Lemons, I think, went for an almighty title battle this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be Camo Baba on 124 points now, I think, and Wet Lemons on 118. I'm pretty sure. Certainly in the top 2 in the championship anyway, and they will have, of course, pulled away even more now from the likes of Jacko and certainly Theo Hickman down in 13th in that race, and Wheelnut as well. But I still wouldn't say it's over necessarily for those guys, but Camo Baba and Wet Lemons certainly the class of the field for the time being.
Well, it's a bad day if your name's called Mike. Mike's were 15th, 16th and 17th in that race. Mike Noon, Michael Kenny and Mike Schumacher. Not what any of those drivers needed. But if China was an interesting race, well, it's Baku next. Anything can happen.
Yeah, we always see, especially in TGP2, really crazy results in Baku, don't we? And see no reason why this is going to be any different. And of course, this is a couple of seasons ago. This is where Hickman made his debut, didn't he, in TGP2? Am I right in saying? I think he made his debut, didn't he, and won? Yeah,
Theo became the youngest ever winner by winning here a year or so ago.
So can he rediscover that form, which really is not really seeming to show the past couple of weeks in this season for the reigning champion? He did win. He'd won the race, didn't he, in Bahrain, but is unable to do really any sort of kind of result similar to that so far this season. After that race, and it looks like we're not going to see Josiah tonight. I don't think he's going to be here. Is he for the second race, or is he?
I'm not sure. He should be here. Both him and Nooney, the reigning champions of the past, aren't here at the moment. So it looks like we may be 2 down for the race here in Baku, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the safety car has less chance of coming out, and if we get rain, I can't remember if we've ever had a wet Azerbaijan Grand Prix before, but that would make it even more spectacular, I'm sure.
I just wonder if Mike Newman was maybe getting a bit of practicing on time trial, maybe, and if he may well rejoin in a minute. But as you say, the 16 cars, less chance of safety cars, but I think it's still pretty inevitable at some stage that we'll see one in this race, and we'll see how it works out and plays out for. Remember Sirton Penguin getting a podium around here in Baku, which was an incredible moment.
What a throwback. What a throwback that was. Voted, I think, biggest shock of TGP in its 10, almost 11 now, year history. I think it was actually equal top of the vote, along with Phil Bardwell fluking a dirt title. Let's not forget when Phil Bardwell had all the odds go for him and take that title. But as you said, the gap is 6 points, 124 now for Camo and 118 for Lemon. So the gap remains so slim, 6 points now in Camo's favour. The first time he has led the championship since week 1 of season 24, and that was, well, about 2 years ago. So it's nicely poised here as we go to Baku, and hopefully we'll get a nice dry race. But a bit of rain, of course, as I said, will always mix it up too.
Well, we did have a wet qualifying in Baku, I think, last season in TGP1. But it's going to be a dry one this time around. And as you say, yeah, we'll find out in a minute what it's going to be like for the race. And you can see sunset, of course, that is when the qualifying session takes place. Very near sunset time in Baku. And you can see the sun beginning to set on this current camera shot that we're watching while waiting for drivers to come out. And it looks like, is that going to be the Haas? It's going to be the first car out on track. Yes, it is.
The cars then leaving the garages here in this qualifying session. A few comments from the drivers in that race. Pastor's gutted of the crash in qualifying, believing he, well, could have won that in the end, moving over to let his teammate through. Said he was always going to do it because he is, of course, ahead of him in the Drivers' Championship, and they are both racing for the same team. Theo Hitman had a bit of an incident with Mackie earlier on in that race. Mackie was left frustrated, believing that Theo may have made a late move which pushed him just outside the limits of the track and ended up clipping the wall. Kaya, of course, we saw him do a slight little late weave against Parser in the race. He said he was trying to get out of the way, so he moved right, thinking Parser would go left. But then when Parser went right, he then went, oh, you know what I'm saying? He tried to get out of the way, but then ultimately got in the way. So that's how Kaya ended up almost having an incident himself with Parser. But Theo Hitman, as you said earlier on, became the youngest ever TGP race winner, a record that still stands to this day. He won in his debut race at Azerbaijan. What an entrance that was for him. But since then, he's won a championship, and this season, not quite able to match the pace of those up front. Once again, losing out massively to the top two in the championship. He lost another 23 points to Camo and 16 to Lemons. That gap between him and those up front is only increasing.
Ouch. Yeah, so you see the drivers then starting to come out on track for this quali session, and it is going to be a dry race throughout. And I think we've got a Ferrari who's gone down one of the runoff areas, one of the many runoff areas on this. Well, I say one of the many runoff areas, actually one of the very few runoff areas, but certainly towards the start of the lap, there's a few escape zones that you can dive down to get away with any errors that you make. It's towards the end of the lap where you have to be absolutely precise, especially coming around those final couple of corners flat out.
A tow could be crucial here. Let's see if any of these drivers use their teammate to try and get a bit of an advantage. Michael Kenny won't have that option. His teammate Kaya out of the session already. Theo Hitman's trying to just go for the gap and said maybe it's wise. I prefer myself personally just have a gap, concentrate on the lap, no worrying about the car in front of you, no distractions, maybe mistakes or a dirty tow. Just your focus on the lap and try and see what you can do. But I know you, Dan, you like a little tow, don't you, in TGB1?
Yeah, if it can be arranged, like pre-arranged, it's kind of can get a bit messy sometimes if you try and just do it during a session and try and set something up with somebody. Then it just tends to be I'll just drive around the track and see what happens. But certainly yesterday in TGP GT I was trying to get a tow at Monza.
Yeah, of course, Dan the Man, you now are a two-time TGP GT winner, which puts you third on the all-time list, which is quite incredible, really. You hadn't won a race before last week, and now you're third on the all-time list. Of course, you won at SSRX in an underpowered car, some would say, so that, of course, was really one of your greatest wins, if not the biggest shock in TGP history. And, of course, you won yesterday once again in Monza. And Court has actually asked if we should have some sort of unofficial sprint race championship standing, so I presume we put all the sprint race points together to see who leads that, and I reckon, Dan, you might well be leading it.
Well, yeah, I would absolutely endorse that suggestion by God. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it does sound good. It'll be interesting to see how that one develops. Of course, Joe Manatee, not here today at the moment, has lost more points in the TGP GT title race. Rebel Kim's on pole. Everyone enters. Never mind. Will not go 5 seconds quicker. Manatee's losing points more and more in GT at the moment. Court looks like he might actually have a chance here to take his first ever title in TGP, which would be some achievement for him. Theo Hitman crosses the line. This is going to be provisional pole. Oh no! Theo Hitman does go pole. 9 tenths quicker than anyone else. What a lap. But Parser once again crashes out of the session. Jacko goes into second for now. Not what he needed. Wet Lemons is on a lap, but he's side by side with Stereogram. Not quite sure what's happening there. Maybe Stereogram just giving him a tow, but Parser out of qualifying already. And is that at the castle section?
Yeah, it is. It is at the castle section. He hit the castle section and he is out. And Jacko, meanwhile, just turn into turn 2 there for some reason, and that's a briefly stop on track. So yeah, so that's one of the big contenders, you would say, out of the session.
Well, we now have Wet Lemons, of course, trying to catch back on Camo in this championship. Now fighting with Camo for pole position once again. Camo's coming around the final sector now. What's this time going to be? A 1:40.3 is the current quickest from Theo Hitman. He's just 3/10 clear of Jacko as Blair Grills slots nicely into P3. With Camo, though, 2-time race winner now. Is this going to be the new quickest benchmark time? It's not. It's only a second slower than Theo Hitman, who knows his way around this track very nicely.
He does indeed. Just watching Wet Lemons, and I tell you what, he's got wheel nut in front of him, but this could be a major tow here that he gets all down the end of the lap.
Nope.
Although maybe not, because Wheelnut moves out the way just at the final proper corner, which requires braking, and Wet Lemons are going to have to do it all by himself at the end of the lap then, and he'll be quite frustrated about that, I would imagine.
Well, there still could be a pole-worthy time. I don't think it'll be pole. I think it's a bit too slow to match Theo's 1:40.3, but I could be wrong. I reckon this will be third or fourth for Wet Lemons. He crosses the line, and indeed does go fourth, about 6/10 adrift of Theo's time, but it's enough for the second row, and it's a good benchmark lap at a track where it's so important to get a first-time lap in.
So the top 4 then all look like they're on back and off laps at the minute, but Blair Grills isn't, because Blair Grills is a 10th up on his in the first sector of his previous lap in 5th place, and we'll see what he can do in the second sector. Looking like he might be able to improve a little bit now and possibly get ahead of Wet Lemons maybe as he gets through turn 13. That horrible corner. Turn 15 actually, I think it is, isn't it? As he's 4/10 up now, Blair Grills. So he's got pace around here.
Yeah, he's got 7/10 to find if it's to be quicker than Theo's 1:40.3. I'm not sure he's going to find that, but he has certainly got pace. If he can get a tow maybe on his next time lap, he could well be quick enough to take pole position. Blair Grills, only 1 pole and 1 win in the history of TGP. What's his time going to be? I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Theo for now. 1:40.3 again is the time to beat. He crosses the line and goes 4th ahead of Wet Lemons, who's won 3 races already this season.
He has indeed then managed to get ahead of Wet Lemons, and Blair Grills looking decent so far then. And just seeing whenever he gets a decent quality result, something always seems to go a little bit wrong for him in the race. Of course, he had a good quality in the previous race in China and had that instantly start. So hopefully he can have a decent result this time around. Just watching to see if we've got drivers coming close to crossing the line. I think Wheelnut looks like he's about to cross the line, and it says he's gone purple in the second sector. Don't know how true that is, but he was up on his previous lap. And we'll see if this can maybe also get him ahead of Wet Lemons. It would have to be quite a bit of an improvement though, but we'll see as he opens the DRS and he runs towards the line, and he goes up to 3rd.
What a lap. Wheelnut, P3, ahead of Jacko, Blair and Wet Lemons. Wet Lemons needs to find an improvement because already he's 4 places adrift as Blair Grills goes into 5th himself. So Wet Lemons at the moment really struggling. 5/10 off the pace of Theo and 5/10 off the pace of Cababo as well. Mr. John has said that, well, he said if he thought Albon was terrible at Red Bull, he's disgusted that Mainoon has not scored a point all season. 7 rounds in now, and Mr. John, the only point scorer for that Red Bull team. And Parser has said the words, I am stupid, I am stupid. He crashed out, of course, in the castle section in Leclerc's Ferrari. So, Parser making a very similar mistake to what we've seen before, and he will start at the very back of this field, and surely that's a tough ask to win the race. But, of course, anything can happen here with safety cars, incidents, and Parser could well still have a chance himself.
It's a good lap by Baza there in 7th place on the mediums.
Yeah, Baza on the medium tyres, P7 at the moment. Likes to set a time on the mediums at the start, and I'm sure he'll find more time when he switches to softs.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's quite a bit of a gap actually between 6th and 7th, but could be a decent quality in there for Baza, and we'll see then what he can do in the race. Chris Johnson currently in 8th place right now. We know he doesn't get on too well with qualifying sessions, but we'll see if he can improve from that as well. He's just beginning to back off and then now go for the push as he gets ready to start his lap. I haven't really seen too many drivers trying to go for the tow in this session so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised. If you see TGP1, I think from last season, every sort of team was 2x2, trying to give each other a tow. Maybe one would give it to their teammate the first lap, then a switch around, do it for the second lap. Or whoever's ahead in the championship would get the advantage both runs. But Yeah, as you say, nothing seems to be happening here between drivers. Pass no use to Wet Lemons, of course. Kai is no use to Angel versus Death. But I wonder if Carbaba will be asking for a favour from Mackie, because, of course, Alpine are so close to Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. All the points could be crucial.
Absolutely. So Jacko's just starting as the lap, then so is Chris Johnson. We've got the majority of the drivers seem to be on out laps at the moment, but I suppose we could watch Mr. John. He's about to come towards the end of the lap now to set his first lap in the session, assuming that he does complete it. And we'll see what he can do at the end of the lap. He's also not going to get any sort of a tow. He has got Kamababo behind him, though, but Kamababo was on an out lap and has actually backed off. Could have actually used Mr. John to get a bit of a tow at the start of the lap, but decides to back off instead.
Well, Mr. John will not be finishing this lap, I don't think. Comes into the pit lane, so he will start at the back for now. Maybe he wants to start at the back. Maybe it's a tactical decision to make sure that as he clips the marker board on the way in, he'll want to start at the back, maybe.
Chris Johnson here is got on a quick lap, and he had Wet Lemons and another car who were going quite slow at the end of the lap to try and get the tow off each other. And Chris Johnson, I thought maybe he might be able to catch up quick enough, but actually I don't think he has, and the tow won't be too big, if any tow at all. He actually manages to get from that. I think it's an Alfa Romeo ahead, but we'll see if Chris Johnson improves nonetheless. It looks like he is going to. I think he was quicker in the second sector, and maybe the game might give him a distant tow there as he crosses the line, and he goes up into 6th place. And Wet Lemons has gone out on medium tyres. He's on medium tyres for this lap.
Wow. Is Wet Lemons starting to feel some sort of pressure, trying different things in this championship fight? I'm not sure that's the right call. I mean, Jacko goes quickest. He goes fastest by 12 thousandths of a second, and the 3 previous winners on this grid of Baku were first, second and third. You can tell why those 3 are big fans of this track. Theo Hitman is finding time himself, coming out around the final couple of corners. Cambabo also finding time out there, so let's keep an eye on both of these drivers, looking to try and get an advantage on Jacko. And look at this, Theo, with maybe a distant tow from the McLaren of Michael Kenny in front of him. Can he fight back on Jacko's 40.369 to the line? He goes straight back on pole again. Cambabo, now it's down to him, and he's finding 5 tenths down.
Yeah, he's flying, absolutely flying 5.5 tenths up, and he was actually down after the first sector as well, so it's been an absolutely monster second sector for Cambabo, and surely I haven't seen him make any errors in this sector, so he's surely going to get pole here, and he's going to get into the 139s. Yes, he is.
139.796, 3 tenths quicker than anyone else. Theo Hitman, the reigning champion, has no answer. Jacko, the man in qualifying, has no answer, and Wet Lemons down in 7th position on the medium tyres. Well, he's finding time. Will this be good enough to go on the front row despite being on the slower rubber, and will that tempt him to go on the softs on his next time lap?
I don't think it'll be good enough for the front row. I think he might be able to get into possibly 4th place, maybe. But it's been interesting to see just start this race on medium tyre, especially because a safety car is hardly likely around here. So I'm not really sure it's the greatest thing. So he's actually got 2nd place.
500s off Carbabo and on the slower medium tyres. So can Wet Lemons go back out there on soft tyres, or will he want to start on the medium, have a different strategy in the race? But with safety cars so likely at this circuit, is it wise to actually start on those tyres? Chris Johnson, 1.111 down in 7th place. He's struggling at the moment. He'll want to get higher up. He has finished 2nd here twice before, back in season 14 when we had a bonus race in those days, of course, because I don't like odd numbers around in a championship, Dan. I have OCD, and it does annoy me a lot.
So Wheelnut was on a good lap there, but I think he got put off slightly by Angel versus Death, who was in the wall at the castle section, and that would have lost him a bit of time.
Yeah, Cambabo also trying to get out of the way of the Mercedes man there, maybe slightly blocking Wheelnut, but Wheelnut is still on a lap. I believe he's found 2.5 tenths after the first split. What about the second split? Is he finding more time out there? No, he's lost time, so in fact he probably did lose time from Cambabo and Angel versus Death making a mistake in the castle section.
Yeah, disappointing for him, but he does have enough time, of course, to set another lap. With 4 minutes to go in the session. Mick Schumacher, he's slightly improving. Is he going to cross the line, or is he going to pit here? There's quite a big gap between him and indecisive in 9th place, but I think nonetheless he's going to complete the lap. No, he's not going to complete the lap. He's going to come into the pit lane. I can't believe that lap by Wet Lemons, though, in the medium tyres.
Yes, what a lap it was. Wet Lemons really looking like a real threat. Is it worth going for softs and taking the pole position, adding another stat to that tally? Or is it better off just thinking about the race, thinking about the championship, being on the slower tyres for the start, which gives him the best possible advantage at the very end of this race? And could you potentially pit lap 1 and then go to soft tyres for the rest of the race? Because tyre wear's not too bad here, is it, Dan? If there was a safety car early on.
Well, that's what I was thinking, yeah. I mean, because obviously that's the risk that you take with going on medium tyres, starting the race on medium tyres. If you do get an early safety car, which can very well happen around here, then would you pit and go to softs for the rest of the race? I think it would be quite difficult to do. Even obviously tyre wear not as bad as it is, say, in China around here, but still, I think that would be a huge risk. But if you've got the pace for it, then maybe it's a risk worth taking, and it's something that I imagine will have taken Camababo by surprise.
This is a thrilling championship, isn't it? Camababo and Wet Lemons, the two standout drivers. But even still, we've seen throughout the races that they're matched equally by Theo, Jacko, Wheelnut, Blair Grills, Chris Johnson, Bazza. I could go on. So, what's going to happen in this race? The 8th round of the championship. Still, I have no idea which of those two is likely to take the championship. Mr. John does not complete his time lap. He remains P16. Maybe it's probably worth him just completing a lap and going P11, no? Because if he can set a lap time, even if it's slow, he'll go 11th and get clean tyres for the race.
Yeah, it's a good point, yeah. And he's got 2 minutes. Well, he's actually got about 30 seconds.
Oh, he's retired.
He's out the session.
Oh, I'm not quite sure why he didn't finish the lap there. Surely he would have been better off just going 11th or 12th, just backing off at the end, getting a fresh set of tyres for the race. But no, he wants to start 16th. Maybe doesn't want to be in the midfield for tactical reasons. But the top 10 are all on outlaps at the moment. About to start their final lap times in this session. Red Bull Kim has lost his front wing, and that's his qualifying done. He's going to start no higher than P12. He will now have to get back to the garages. That car is out of qualifying.
Well, look at all the drivers all on outlaps here for the final runs. But just before they get started, just have a look at last season's quali results. And Parser dominated. He was the only driver to get into the 139s last season in TGP2 quali, and it was a 139.3 as well. So it was an absolutely incredible lap by Parser. We won't get to see it this time though, because of course he crashed out early on.
Here we go then, the closing moments of qualifying. Can Camababo make it 2 on the bounce? Can Wet Lemons take his first pole since the first week when he took it at both Bahrain and Imola? The gap is just 0.05 of a second, and I believe they're both going out on soft tyres, Daniel. Can you confirm?
Yeah, everybody on track is on soft tyres.
Well then, this is going to be a thrilling conclusion to qualifying. Blair Grills will be the first of these runners to finish their final time laps in this session. Rebel Kim will not start inside the top 10. He starts 12th alongside Angel versus Death on that 6th row of the grid. Blair Grills coming around the middle sector now. The first sector, he found a 10th. Can he find more time in this second split? It's looking nice for the Aston Martin man. He'll want to try and get himself on the front 2 rows if possible, but the pace of the front 4 is quite something. And there's Rebel Kim's car stopped in the middle of the track. Whether that was a distraction or not for Blair Grills, I'm not too sure, but it looks clean and tidy still. He's finding more and more time. The second split is coming up. Let's see how much improvement. It's 4.5 tenths. That could be enough to put him on the front 2 rows as I submitted.
Hickman's invalidated. Theo Hickman has invalidated his lap, and Jacko's backed off. I don't think Jacko's going to make the line. No, he's not going to make the line.
Okay then, so both Jacko and Theo will not be finding improvement, which I think means Wheelnut will be the next driver then to maybe make an improvement. But Blair Grills to the line. Can he find a position to go in the front 2 rows of the grid? Currently P6, goes P4, just about slower than Theo. Theo will be believing, what am I trying to say here? Theo will be sigh of relief? You know what I mean. Because for now, keeps P3.
So where's Daniel Peel Wheelnut then? He's going to be the next across the line. Wet Lemons is flying in the first sector on those soft tyres. Camababo was just ahead of him, of course. Camababo will cross the line first. But what's Wheelnut going to do? Can he get ahead of Jacko? Don't know what happened to Jacko, but he just backed right off at the end of the lap, or middle of the lap. He must have made a mistake, but he hasn't invalidated or anything. But he's out the session anyway. And is he going to be out qualified? No, he's not by Daniel Peel Wheelnut. So let's go. What's going on at the front then? Camababo, purple second sector, 4 tenths up.
Baz has gone third, quickest, what a lap time from him, just a 10th off the pace. Chris Johnson has slowed down, he will not be improving, so it is just down to the top 2 in this session. Camababo, 1:39.7, for now it's safe for pole position, but will it be safe in about 30 seconds time? He needs to find an improvement, surely he's finding time, but will it be enough to extend his gap at the front? He crosses the line and finds 4 more tenths, and now Wet Lemons has to respond. He's finding 2 tenths himself in the middle sector. I don't think this will be enough, but the final sector could be crucial for the Ferrari man. Can he take pole position away from the championship leader. He can't. He stays second. The gap is 2/10, but crucially on the front row of the grid alongside his title rival.
Well, I tell you what, Wet Lemons, as he was coming out the exit at turn 15, Mick Schumacher crashed ahead of him, and he had to, I think he was a bit unsure whether to drive through the car or go round it. I do wonder if that may have cost him a bit of time. I don't think it would have cost him 2/10 though.
Mackie is actually quite good at Baku. When he can keep it on the circuit, I believe he was running second several seasons ago. That season when Tom Penguin got a podium, he was also running in the podium places before making a mistake himself. So it just seems to get a bit unfortunate in the closing stages of the race, but he starts ninth. Keep an eye on him. He will I'm sure he will gain places through this race and maybe snatch a surprise pole position, podium finish then.
What a quali by Baza as well, in third place on the soft tyres once he put them on. Great quali for him. His teammate Jacko not doing too well down in 6th place.
Well, 6 points is the gap between Kawababo and Wet Lemons in this championship fight. And crucially, for the championship leader, he is ahead of his rival. The gap was just 2/10 in the end. Wet Lemons going back out on the soft tyres. I'm not quite sure. I think his medium rubber wouldn't have been enough to stay in that top 2 rows, would it, Dan? Would he have been further back if he had stayed on those medium tyres and settled for that time?
It would have been a 1:39.853. So
he would have stayed second.
Would have kept him second place, yeah.
Well, I wonder if he's regretting then, because I think his lap time was actually set after everyone else had already set their lap, so he could have just backed off and settled for second. But maybe he thought he could have gained the time. Maybe he wanted to start on the soft tyres. But if I knew I was starting second, I think I would have settled for the mediums and pitted early on if there was any such safety car.
Yeah, perhaps not expecting that kind of increase of lap time for Kawababo at the end of the lap. And as I say, there was that moment coming out to turn 15 where he had to sort of half dodge Mick Schumacher's crashed AlphaTauri. But again, I don't think that would have cost him the amount of time that he lost in the gap to pole position of 2/10. But anyway, they're on the grid, and it is once again those top 2 in the championship occupying the front row. But still, every time, there's just drivers behind who are it's not like they're miles back. They're right there, right behind them. And if the front 2 make any sort of errors, they will take full opportunity. As we get ready for the race here in Baku.
Here we go then. I'm chatting on mute. Classic me. Lights are coming on here at Baku. The 5 lights are coming on. And any moment now, they'll release the top 2 in the championship. 6 points the difference. We're racing here in Baku. What a start it is from Jacko further back. It looks like Wet Lemons is not going to be good enough to try and get Kawababo into turn 1. We've got the Mercedes of Wheelnut looking to get through on Blair Grills and Theo Hitman just about holding on to 4 for now. There's a spinner in the background. Crucially, it's Parser, the Ferrari man. Ferrari have a 10-point lead in the Constructors' Championship. But crucially, Parser's at the back of the grid. Not what he needed at the start of this race.
Such a shame for Parser. I don't know what happened there, but he just lost it as Hickman is in 4th place at the minute. Who's behind them? I think it's Blair Grills, got very close but couldn't make the move. So Bazet right on the back of Wet Lemons, but can't get overtaken past either. So the top 5, as you were then, Jacko did get an initial good launch, but he actually ended up losing positions. He was in the wrong place, really, at the wrong time, and he's gone down to 8th place.
Wet Lemons needs to be careful. He's got Bazza all over the back of him, while Wet Lemons now already a second adrift of the championship leader. Bazza just 4/10 further back. In fact, he's made a little mistake there, which now allows Theo Hitman to get on the back of him through this castle section. Got to be so careful through here. It's so tight and twisty, isn't it? Bazza almost loses the back end. Theo hits the side of him. Bazza goes wide. I think Bazza just lost the back end of the car. Theo couldn't do anything about that, and it's thrown to third. There's a safety car.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher and Indecisive have both had a big crash at the castle. Parser crawling his way through the debris there. So we do have a safety car, and I don't know what happened to Bazza. I don't know if did he just sort of lose the car, and suddenly got absolutely mugged by a couple of drivers, and he's gone down to 6th place now. But we have a safety car, and who's going to pit?
If I was in this race now, Dan, I would be straight into that pit garage, straight into the pits. Whether I'm on mediums or softs, I'm pitting for the fastest possible rubber I can go to. Surely all these drivers will dive into the pits in the top 4 or 5 at least. In fact, everyone should really be coming into the pits. What's Kawababo going to do? He's not staying out, is he? He is staying out.
Oh no, he's last minute. Yes,
yeah,
he
last
is.
minute.
He's coming in.
Theo stays out there. Be careful not to speed in the pit lane, my friend. Kawababo comes in. Theo stays out. In fact, the next 6 all diving into the pits. Wheelnut has hit the back of Bazza, I think, on the pit entry, or vice versa. Both these drivers now going on to the medium tyres. Let's see who comes out of the pits ahead of who. Kawababo crucially staying ahead of Wet Lemon, who himself is ahead of Blair Grills and Daniel P. Wilnot. But Theo Kipman's been disqualified for ignoring yellow flags. Has he overtaken the safety car, Dan?
Well, the safety car did just drive past him at that moment when I cut to him. He's out the race. Look at him parking up at the escape road at turn 3.
The reigning champion has been disqualified from the session. Not only was Marco's unlapped car not allowed to unlap himself at the last race under the safety car, now Theo Hitman has been disqualified by the stewards for not ignoring or accepting the yellow flags. Maybe he overtook the safety car. I didn't quite see what had happened there, but it means Jacko is in the lead of this race with Kaya, Mr. John and Red Bull Kim completing the top 4 places. Passes back into 5th despite his spin on the opening lap. And as far as Jacko didn't pit, I mean, maybe he thinks Kaya, John, Kim will hold up those behind, and maybe there'll be another safety car later in the race. But is that not a disaster class from Jacko, Dan, to have stayed out?
Yeah, I think pitting would probably be the best thing to do at that moment. But was he ahead or behind Bazza at the time? I think he was behind. He was definitely behind, wasn't he? So I don't think he wants to queue. And Bazza did actually also have to change his front wing there. I think it was Bazza who hit the back of wheel nut as they were coming into the pit lane. And so then Bazza had to change the front wing. So Jacko would have gone to the very, very, very back of the pack there if he did pit. But probably, or perhaps, that might be what he should have done.
One team that did make the double stack work was Aston Martin. Blair Grills and Chris Johnson. Only a place in front of Chris Johnson is Wheelnut. Just one place the difference between Blair and Chris Johnson. And Wheelnut, of course, with a time penalty. I'm sure he'll get that removed. Looks like Bazza has just hit the back of Wheelnut.
Bazza did hit the back of Wheelnut, yeah.
Okay, and Bazza, I believe that will be his penalty as well. Mark Kenny, not quite sure what's happened to him, but I presume there's something similar in this race. But the top 5 then have all stayed out. And what I don't understand in TGP2 is some of these drivers in the top 5 will now pit. No, if you've opted to stay out, stay out. Don't pit now. What's the point? Because then you will drop to the back. You may as well just pit it and hope you get in a place or two. So if any of these pit, Dan, I'm going to be furious. Absolutely furious. Jacko, come on.
I don't think he's going to pit, is he? No, he's definitely.
Oh, what are you doing, Kaya? Why are you pitting? What's the point?
And he may as well mediums as well.
He may as well have pitted the previous lap, Dan. Oh, Parsons pitting as well. What are these drivers doing? If you're going to pit on lap 1 when the safety car comes out, because now you're both going to be at the back. That's my 2 cents.
Parson was right at the back anyway, wasn't he? Because of the crash at the start. But so he's actually ahead of Kaya now, although he probably would have still been ahead of Kaya regardless if he pitted anyway on lap 1. So anyway, it's happened, and Parson and Kaya both pitted.
I don't get it.
I'm surprised Bazza didn't come in because
to serve that penalty.
He did hit Wheelnut, but I don't know if that penalty will apply or not because it was coming into the pit lane. It wasn't the usual kind of safety car collision. It was a direct collision with the pit lane as he was on pit lane entry. So will Bazza get that penalty removed or not? I know Wheelnut will, but will Bazza?
I think if Bazza's just gone to the back of him, then that's going to stand for Bazza. So I'm surprised he didn't come into the pits. Maybe he's going to try and take his chances and get that removed at the end. Maybe he didn't want to be behind Stereogram, Angel versus Death. He would have definitely been ahead of Parser and Kaya, who of course are both pitted, and that's going to annoy Jacko more than anyone because Jacko now only has 2 cars between himself and Kawababa. Red Bull Kim and Mr. John, and you know what? Knowing TGB2, Red Bull Kim's going to pit this lap down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think Kawababa and Wet Lemons are certainly in very good position at the minute. Jacko probably should have come in, even if it would have meant he would have lost a lot of time and would have had to queue behind Bazet. I can't really see how, unless of course Wet Lemons and Kawababa get damaged or collide. I don't know how this is going to work for Jacko at the minute, but we'll see. Anything can happen in Baku.
And it usually does. Jacko leads this race from Mr. John and Red Bull Kim, who are all yet to make a stop in this race. 4th downwards have all made their stop, and surely the safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap, and what a place it is to try and get racing again. Mr. John and Jacko, we've seen great battles from them. In fact, only a couple of weeks ago in Spain, we saw the 2 of them side by side for the whole lap. Will Mr. John maybe help out his friend here and allow Jacko to get a slight gap as Jacko prepares to go racing once again? Red Bull Kim is already 2 seconds adrift, and Mr. John needs to be careful to stay on the back as the safety car now about to peel in to the pit lane, and Jacko starts to back up these cars.
Well, of course, the big story of this safety car here is going to be the disqualification for Theo Hickman. I'm sure we'll find out in due course what happened, but let's see what happens on this restart. Restarts around here are always pretty frantic, and Jacko is backing them up. When is he going to for the throttle.
He's gone. Jacko's gone. We're going racing once again already. Calababo about to get Red Bull Kim, I think, further back. Let's see if Jacko can hold the lead for now. He does. Mr. John still second. Calababo all over the back of Red Bull Kim. Can he get himself into P3, down into turn 1? He wants to get through as Wet Lemons up the inside of the championship leader. The two of them going side by side. Wet Lemons has to back out of that one. He just about gets, not quite get through on the man in front, Red Bull Kim. Red Bull Kim is now behind Calababo. Not what Calababo will have wanted to have had Kim right in front of him, but he made the move, he got through, and now Kim having to defend from the other championship contender in Wet Lemons.
Yeah, in Wet Lemons has to make the move, surely, right now, at this corner. And can he do it late on the brakes into turn 3? Yes, he can, and he has got that move done, which he knew he needed to make. And Cameron Babbo and Wet Lemons are back together again in 3rd and 4th place, and Cameron Babbo now is going to try and get past Mr. John. Jacko's going to somehow try and build some sort of gap.
Yeah, Jacko's going to pull at least a 15-second gap and then hope for a VSC or safety car. But Jacko, I think, is going to fall right to the rear end of this field when he makes his pit stop. I think he's going to try and go as late into this race as he can, maybe lap 11 or 12 if needed, unless we get another VSC or safety car, which I'm sure he will be hoping for. Mr. John looking for his 50th podium in TGB2, currently second in this race, but like Jacko, is yet to make a pit stop. Wet Lemons is all over the back of Calababo, who is now all over the back of Mr. John. This is a great fight between these two championship contenders, stuck behind Mr. John, the heavyweight of TGB2. Can these two get through? Mr. John's a hard man to pass. He knows how to defend that car as best as he can. He's been here quite some time now. 488 races this is in TGB2, trying to be the first to hit 500. The yellow flag further back. Looks like maybe Kaya or Rebel King's made a spin, but second, third and fourth, Mr. John ahead of these two title contenders, Camo and Wet Lemons, dueling here in Baku. They're going side by side, first and second in the championship, 6 points between them. Who's going to be ahead of who? Down into turn 1 as we begin the 5th lap of this race. They're still side by side, and Mr. John remains ahead of both of them. Calbaba for now staying just narrowly clear, but Wet Lemons has the inside line, and surely the better move into turn 1 to try and get the position. Up the inside he goes, and for now he takes P3, but Calbaba, I suspect, will come straight back through at the next corner if possible. No DRS in play just yet, but Mr. John doing a very good job of defending so far. A bit twitchy for him, and now Wet Lemons has the chance to maybe get through on the outside of the Red Bull man, and that will be great news for him, because Calababo, I know, is going to get Mr. John for another corner.
That worked very well, didn't it, for Wet Lemons, assuming he can get through turn 3 here, which he does. Calababo was really early on the brakes into turn 1 there. I'm surprised he didn't fight it too much more, to be honest, against Wet Lemons. He really almost sort of gave the position up, but can he get past Mr. John now before they get into turn 5? He really needs to. And he does, just manage it, does he? Yes, he does. And he's into 3rd place, and we'll see how quick he can gain onto Wet Lemons. But Wet Lemons now are up at this already. He's right on the back of Jacko.
Bazza and Parser having a great duel as well. The 8th and 9th, Wet Lemons is all over the back of Jacko. Dan, let me know when he's about to go for the move. We've got Bazza and Parser going side by side for a whole section of corners there in the first sector. Chris Johnson just ahead of these two, but all these drivers trying to fight to get themselves back into the podium places. Wheelnut with a penalty, we suspect, will be removed. And of course, Mr. John yet to make a pit stop in this race, just like Jacko, who's now under threat from Wet Lemons. The gap's coming down, and Wet Lemons needs to clear Jacko, who's had a spin. He's not got any damage, he's okay. But now Calababo will find himself with a nice little toe down this back straight when he clears Jacko.
Yeah, and Jacko is 1.1 seconds behind, so he won't actually get DRS. Oh, it's Calababo's going for the move now. This is so risky through the corners, but he makes it stick. What a huge risk that was, but he's got it done. And we can see if he can close in now. But I tell you what, Jacko might be able to get a bit of a toe here.
I think he's going to pit.
Well, he's going to pit. He's pitting. He's giving up then. And he's decided to come in. And he will be, I assume, asking himself, why didn't he just decide to pit?
Yeah, I think Jacko should have pitted.
Bazza and Chris Johnson side by side. And Parser going round the outside of the pair of them. Can he make it
work? Oh, 3 wide. 3 wide, these three. Parser, Chris Johnson and Bazza all fighting for his 6th position. This is brilliant racing. Battles throughout the field here in TGB2. Chris Johnson all over Parser, who's all over Bazza. These three have been fighting for quite some time. And Bazza for now has the position, but for how long? Because Parser and Chris Johnson are right with him. And Parser is through into 6th place. He did the right thing pitting on lap 2. Yeah, he should have pitted lap 1. But, you know, he came in lap 2, got the fresh set of tyres, and he's exactly where Jacko could have been had he pitted. Instead, Jacko, 9 seconds adrift of Kaya in 11th.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely right, Dom. And Chris Johnson was going side by side with Bazza, and then suddenly Parser just appeared around the outside and managed to get past Chris Johnson and then got past Bazza. Bazza just clipped the wall at turn 6. Don't know if he's got damage because of it, but Chris Johnson is closing in on him now. And Bazza, of course, we assume is already going to have to save a penalty at the end of the race anyway.
Let's keep an eye on Parser. Parser also clipped the wall, so may well start to lose time to Blair Grills if he has damage on the front end of that Ferrari. Passer for now seems to be okay, not losing chunks of time. I suspect he will have had he got damaged, but Mr. John is now having to defend from wheel nut. How long will Mr. John stay out for in this race? Cababo is over 2 seconds adrift of Wet Lemons, who's flying in this race. As things stand, the gap would be, once again, 1 point in Wet Lemons' favour. Unless Cababo gets the fastest lap, then they're tied on points as they go into the 5th week. But here comes Daniel P. Wheelnut trying to get through back into the podium places. Mr. John will be a sitting duck, surely. It's like the Premier League versus the Championship. Wheelnut goes to the right. Mr. John will not have much to do about that. In fact, Mr. John might just come into the pits. Indeed he does. Wheelnut into P3, and now Passer attacking Blair Grills for 4th.
Yeah, is Passer going to do it? He's trying this round the outside move again. That's what he'd done on the previous lap, and he's done it again. That's a brilliant overtake. To say, what? Oh, he just hit the wall. But down the straight, he just hit the wall. Passer's just there. We've got a VSC.
What a move that was from Passer round the outside. I'm not quite sure what the VSC bought. It's good news for Mr. John, in fact, who just made a pit stop. So he wouldn't have lost as much time as he would have on a normal pit stop. I think he would have hoped for a safety car instead. That's what Jacko will be hoping for too, on fresher tyres, wanting the field to be bunched up. But Jacko, in fact, is behind Mr. John. That's how much they've had advantage. Mr. John gained because of the VSC.
Well, Stereogram has not got a front wing, so I'm guessing he might have collided with the wall, and that is the reason he'll be have the VSC out right now then. But Passer just managing to get that move done just in time. Brilliant overtake to the 2nd lap in a row around the outside of the car into turn 1. Very nicely done indeed then, as we wait to see when this restart's going to get back underway. Jacko will not be a happy man at all. Who's going to be more unhappy, Jacko or Theo at the end of this race? I'm not sure.
I think Theo.
True.
Theo, I mean, this time last year he became the youngest ever winner in TGP2 history by winning on his debut in Baku. It's not quite the same story, and Passer's got a drive through for speeding under the VSC. Who's going to be more annoyed, Dan? Passer, Theo or Jacko?
Yeah, or Blair Grills, who's also got one.
Oh, I don't believe it. They're racing so hard at the restart that they're both now going to come into the pits and throw away 10 to 15 seconds of their hard-earned time because they were just too quick at the safety car restart. That puts Passer into P4. Jacko will gain in a couple of places, as will Mr. John. Will Passer come straight into the pits this time round to serve that drive-through penalty? You might as well, just in case there's another VSC or safety car. They both come in and, yeah, wow, unbelievable, Dan.
Oh, that's such a shame, isn't it? This can just happen sometimes. It's got to get carried away, and you don't realise on the Delta, and there you go and break the rules. But I tell you what, they're actually going to stay ahead of Jacko and the like here. Might be quite close this, you know. Here comes Passer and Blair Grills around the final corner. Angel vs Death gets ahead, and Blair Grills gets ahead of Mr. John. Yes, he does.
Yeah, it was a great move there from Mr. John around the outside of Kaya down into turn 1, but not quite good enough. Another virtual safety car.
And that Stereogram's lost the front wing again. That will be the reason for that. It's the final sort of intervention we can have in the race. And Stereogram, I think he went off again around turn 3 and does not have a front wing. So another VSC. And Passer right behind Angel versus Death once we get restarted. Then he might try and avoid getting a drive-through. So.
Well, actually, I think the drive-through was just a bit too early to take advantage of the VSC, but they could have actually lost less time for their drive-through because of another VSC. But Cababo has closed the gap from 2 seconds to about 8 tenths. Now, don't be completely satisfied with that time, that gap, because they'll have deltas that they need to adhere to, and maybe Cababo's just taking it a bit too quick to start with. But that gap's definitely shorter than what it was. And does Lemons have some sort of damage on that Ferrari, potentially? Maybe he's clipped the front wing somewhere.
Well, Stereogram was towards the front of the pack, wasn't he, when he had that moment? I hope they haven't collided. Just seeing, have a look at Wet Lemons' car. It looks like he's got everything intact, and he's actually pushing quite a bit now. He's about to get a restart, maybe.
I think so.
1 seconds the gap now.
I hope neither of them get a drive-through penalty. Rebel Kim, drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. Back racing again. Wet Lemons, Cababo, crucially, are okay. Wet Lemons is still in this race.
Got one. Jacko got a drive-through.
Oh, I don't believe it. Amateurs out there. There's so much experience between them all. There's Bazza off the inside of Wheelnut, takes back that podium place. They're both carrying 5-second penalties. We're not sure if Bazza will stand or remain, but I'm sure Wheelnut will definitely go. Wheelnut back through up the inside, around the outside of Bazza. Who's going to come out top in this battle? For now, it's Bazza. And wow, these two fighting for 3rd and 4th. Fantastic racing here at Baku.
And Passer goes down the inside, this time into turn 1 on Angel vs Death to get into 6th place. Angel vs Death has a penalty, but it's Angel vs Death. Oh, they've got a touch. Oh, well, that was just a guaranteed instant. And Passer's in the wall. He's got no front wing. Oh, and Jacko's joined him.
Can't give up, Dan. So Parser, who's had a spin on lap 1, then didn't pit when he should have, pitted later, lost more time, then had a drive-through penalty, but somehow worked himself back up to P7 again. Now he's back down to 11th because of a second spin. Let's see if Parser can once again work his way back through the field.
But that second spin, I have to say, that was an incident with Angel versus Death, and really, Angel versus Death should have given the place up there. And Angel versus, well, I mean, I think we've got another driver to add to the annoyed at the end of the race crew, because Parser will also not be happy at the end of this one either.
And Bazza just about holding on to P3 ahead of Wheelnut. The gap's a 10th. Wheelnut almost going around the outside, but that's not the place to overtake. You're better off just waiting for this back straight. Yellow flags are still out in sector 1 because Parser is out of this race. The 4th casualty here at Baku. Rebel Kim up into P11. Jacko not quite making the progress I thought he would have. I think that's because he had a drive-through penalty, but Mr. John, keep an eye on him. Up to 7th already, gaining chunks of time in this race. Maybe looking good for driver of the day, but the battle at the moment is between P3 and P4. Bazza for now holding on to that 3rd place from Wheelnut. Both of these drivers having a little incident earlier on onto the safety car, but can Wheelnut now get that podium place straight back from the Alfa Romeo man? Wheelnut will stay on the racing line. Bazza tries to move over, make sure it's not so easy for the Mercedes man. Round the outside he'll try, but Bazza's wise to it. Keeps the position for now. They're still side by side. They're almost identical coming down to turn 2. Who's going to be clear of who? Wheelnut is great to defend him, but it turns out so is Bazza. Bazza for now holds on to P3, Dan, but he's going to come straight back at him, surely.
Well, they were a level pegging there that they didn't even, none of them got DRS either. So they were totally equal across the line, and Bazza manages to hold 3rd place, and Wheelnut did not get DRS to make any sort of advantage. But Jacko obviously had that spin with Parser there. He joined Parser spinning around at turn 2, so Jacko's now got to replace his front wing and then come in the next lap to save the drive through as well.
I mean, if Rebel Kim was a bit closer, Rebel Kim could have been on for an almighty result here today. It's a shame he's 50 seconds adrift of Angel versus Death, who's currently just inside that top 10. Of course, Rebel Kim finished 10th at the last race. Could have been 2 top 10 finishes for the man whose best finish, I believe, is 4th or 5th in TGB2 quite some time ago. Rebel Kim still hunting for that first podium in TGB2. The gap is still 1.6 seconds between the top 2. The championship lead is going to be down to just 1 point as things stand. There's another yellow flag in sector 1. I think this time it's Angel versus Death. That shouldn't be any safety car or VSC. We've already had the allocated amount in this race, so the drivers should be safe. I think that's good news for Bazza and Wheelnut, who will not want another safety car, because with their penalties they're carrying, they do not want Blair Grills and Chris Johnson to catch up. Blair Grills looks settled for 6th at the moment, but Chris Johnson could well pinch the podium off the pair of them.
Well, I think if Bazza gets a penalty, what kind of penalty will he get in terms of if Chris Johnson can gain a position or not? But anyway, here comes Wheelnut back at Bazza now. They're both using the ERS, of course. They're both running very low. Daniel P. Wheelnut also has the advantages of DRS. Bazza is trying to move away from the toe, and Wheelnut's going to go down the inside as he to make the move. Late on the brakes, Bazza. But Wheelnut's going to get it done? No.
Once again, these two identical, closely matched here in TGB2. This is brilliant racing between these two, and still they're side by side. And still, Bazza, for now, just about holds on, but Wheelnut is level pegging with him. They're almost identical. I think they are identical. Bazza, for now, around the outside, down to P4, and Wheelnut retakes that podium place, but Bazza comes straight back at him. We're seeing a great show between these two champions of TGB2. They may not have won a title yet, but they're certainly showing their class on the race circuit. And Wheelnut retakes P3, and all the while, this allows Chris Johnson to close in on the pair of them.
Oh, Bazza just tapped the back of Wheelnut, and he's got damage, Bazza.
Oh, that's not what he needed, and that might allow Chris Johnson to get closer and make the pass on the racetrack at least. A great scrap between these two for what's seemed like an eternity, 4 or 5 laps now, those two going toe to toe. But if Bazza has got damage, that might well be the end of it. He's really struggling, and Chris Johnson can sense that P4 ahead of him.
And Jacko is saving his drive through finally now, but he's going to be in 9th place. And Red Bull Kim, actually, no, I think he's just going to come out ahead, Jacko, of Red Bull Kim.
Well, I think Kaya's getting a nosebleed down in P8. Don't think he's ever been this high. He probably doesn't know what the points are.
Over again.
It is Imola all over again. Oh yeah, where did he finish that race? Was it 7th or 8th?
Well, I think he was 7th in Imola, but I think there was a few drivers who got penalties removed, a couple of drivers, but yeah. Oh, Chris Johnson just hit the wall there.
I think Chris Johnson got a bit distracted there. I don't know if he was itching his chin or scratching his back or something. Maybe someone was at the door saying, "Chris Johnson, let me in," because he got distracted, tapped the wall at the corner. You don't really want to do it at, because it sets you all out of place for the next their section of corners, and now already Bazza getting a bit more advantage to stay clear of the Aston Martin man, but Bazza's gap is coming down and down. He definitely has damage. He's now 3 seconds adrift of Wheelnut. Yellow flags in sector 1 and 2. I think that might just be for Stereogram, so don't worry too much about that. Wet Lemon still leads this race, 2 seconds clear of Cavababo, but the pressure must be almighty on the Ferrari man's shoulders.
Yeah, it's huge now. Bazza definitely has end-plate damage. I can see it on the car. Chris Johnson did not get damage from tapping the wall just a moment ago. Chris Johnson surely will get the move done eventually. At the front, it's 1.9 seconds, the gap now between these two. Just having a quick look. Wet Lemons has 1 warning, Camababo has 2. So even in that respect as well, Camababo is only 1 away from a penalty. Wet Lemons is 2 away from a penalty.
Wet Lemons lost 5 tenths in that castle section. I thought maybe there was some sort of incident for him, but thankfully for him it doesn't seem to be the case, because he's kept that gap now at 1.6 as they both lap Stereogram in this race, who's on course for a few points to finish in 12th. Of course, the Jose point system rewarded down to 14th in this race, but Chris Johnson is now once again all over the back of the Alfa Romeo man. If he can make sure he doesn't make the same mistake he did the last time round in this final sector, surely Bazza will be a sitting duck down the start finish straight.
Yeah, and especially when they go through those 2 flat out corners at the end of the lap. Oh, Bazza's hit the wall already.
Yeah, and Chris Johnson's going to wait, I think, for the back straight before making the move. He'll want the DRS from the Alfa Romeo man, but I don't think the Alfa Romeo man will even need it, because he's struggling so much with that front wing. More and more damage on that car. Bazza now just needs to get this car to the end of the race. Maybe let Chris Johnson through. It's not worth trying to hold on. Just let him go, mate. Just try and hold on to P5. He's got 7.8 seconds to Blair Grylls behind, and this is surely Chris Johnson going through.
Yeah, and he's going to get DRS, but Bazza is using his ERS, but Chris Johnson surely now with the DRS as well will get the position confirmed. Yeah, I think Bazza tried to back off there and maybe steal DRS from Chris Johnson, but Chris just got it, and Chris Johnson gets 4th place. Final lap. Looks like Wet Lemons is going to, well, he'll retake the lead of the championship, won't he?
Yeah, depending, of course, who has got that fastest lap in this race. It is currently...
Fastest lap is Wet Lemons.
Okay, so he'd be 2 points clear of the championship. We'll actually have gained a point as things stand. I don't want to jinx it. This is such a tight and twisty track. Any mistake can happen at any time, even in the final lap of the final sector. But Wet Lemons looks like for now he's just about going to hold on. He's fought back. Carbabo set an almighty set of results together to take second, first. Wet Lemons started to struggle, bouncing around in the streets of Monte Carlo, unable to match him around the almighty Shanghai circuit. But now here at Baku, he's fought straight back, and he's on course for his 4th race victory of the season to retake the championship lead. Wet Lemons is going to take the win. He's not going to take the fastest lap, though, because Jacko's just taken that from him, so the gap will be just 1 point in Wet Lemons' favour unless he retakes a lap from Jacko. What a drive it's been from Wet Lemons. He's kept his cool. He's made the right strategy. He's already weaving to celebrate the Ferrari taking the checkered flag here in Baku. What a race for Lemons. He wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the 4th of the season. Calababo will take 2nd. And Bazza, I'm not quite sure he's going to hold on to P5 with that time penalty. Wilnut will take P3 in the Mercedes. Another strong result for the Mercedes man. 5-second penalty is not going to matter. He's going to still get that podium finish. Jacko's trying to get 9th off Michael Kenny as well. Those two so close for 9th and 10th. Wilnut, of course, with a 5-second penalty, but it's enough to stay in 3rd. Blair Grylls will finish 6th on the road, but take 5th on the track in the results as Jacko continues to try and get Michael Kenny for 9th place at the end of this race, trying to recover what was sort of a terrible race really for the Alfa Romeo man. He could have won the race had he made the right strategy at the start, but instead chose to stay out.
Mr. John gets 6th in the end from Bazza, also losing 2 positions, but I think he might get a drag race finish here with Angel versus Death and Jacko.
Yeah, it's going to be close, isn't it? Who's going to take the final 9th and 10th places in this race? Rebel Kim is lapped, so takes 11th. Stairgram is 12th. Kaya is going to come through for another fantastic result for him. P8 matches his best of the season so far, which of course he achieved back in Imola. What a result for Kaya, but who's going to get 9th? Who's going to get 10th here? Angel versus Death and Jacko, 2 former race winners fighting. It's going to be a drag race to the line, I think, Dan. Who's going to take it?
I think it's going to be Jacko because he's got a lot of VRS left and he's going to have DRS and he's going to get that move done actually incredibly comfortably.
Oh wow, easy
in the end to cross the line and take 9th place, and of course, as you say, he got that fastest lap on the previous lap as well.
Well, Jacko takes fastest lap. I suspect Mr. John will take driver of the day. Indeed he does. What a result it was for Mr. John to finish where he did from the very back of the grid. But it's Wet Lemons who retakes the lead of the championship, and the gap remains just 1 point. As it was before tonight, pretty much making tonight pointless. So you've all wasted 2 hours of your time. It's exactly where we were 2 hours ago. But that's another 2 rounds ticked off. There's still 14 more to go over the next 7 weeks. What a championship showdown we're getting here. 1 point is the difference, and Wet Lemons holds the advantage for now.
Yeah, well, it's looking like a proper duel now, isn't it, between Wet Lemons and Kamababo. Absolutely brilliant stuff to watch them both. And, well, I'm sure there's going to be plenty more drama and instance along the way. We'll see who, come the end of the season, will be lifting the trophy. Hickman was actually cheering on Jacko at the end of that race there, and he's not very happy, of course, with that disqualification, which can't wait to find out what happened with that one, as he's classified as 14th, so he will actually still get a point, won't he?
Okay, yeah, so 14th despite being disqualified. Okay, so he takes the point then in the championship, despite disqualification. Not quite sure how that happened, but what a night it's been here in TGP2. We've seen the top two in the championship match each other on points. Kamababo and Wet Lemons, 43 each. 1 point is the difference between them. Wet Lemons on 143, Kamababo on 142. And the Constructors fight is just as close. Brian Alpine once again fighting it out up front, with Aston Martin also collecting a good haul of points themselves. Not a good day for Williams and AlphaTauri. No points scored for either of those two teams. But what a night it's been here in TGP2. We're back next week for 2 more dueling races around this TGP2 calendar. It's France and Austria for the 5th week of the season. But from me and Dan, good night, and we'll see you next time.